A kid was like clearly he was more motivated than 99% of every kid I had out there. Like, how does a kid get to that age and is just that motivated to be great? I mean, was there anything you guys did, or was he just born that way?
But I believe the great is still yet to come. I won't stop fighting, man, until I'm done.
And in the middle, one of my favorite people in the world, Dr. Waleska Batista. So she is here today to class up the joint between Richie and I, which is, true, basically. Yeah.
Very.
Yeah, so Wally is a doctor, and I figured I'd start today with an educational quote. Education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world. And that's a Nelson Mandela quote. So without me speaking all day as I usually do, I'm going to turn to Wally here and just ask Wally to tell us a little bit about herself.
Hi, so I'm from the Dominican Republic originally. I came to this country when I was 5. My family left the Dominican Republic because we lived in extreme poverty. Talk about motivation, right? I became a teacher quite by chance. That was not what I was set out to do. I was going to be a lawyer, actually.
I can see that, actually.
I'm sure.
I can really can.
I can argue. I can state
I
my
talk
point
to
of
Wally
research.
almost every day. Yeah, she should have been a lawyer.
So, but you know what? It was that whole thing about the butterfly effect. It's like, you know what? And a series of things happened, and I ended up in education, and that is a decision that I do not regret. It's not an easy job. It is not for the faint of heart. But I found that was my true calling. So I've been doing that. This is now, I started my 23rd year.
She started when she was 8 years old.
Yeah, I started when I was 8 in education. And, it's been an interesting path. And I've taught every grade except for kindergarten. So a range. So I've taught from 6-year-olds all the way to 18, 19-year-olds in the past 20 some odd years.
I have enormous respect for teachers, because people, like when Richie and I were teaching the group lessons, and I used to be married. My student said to me, he's like, well, you and your wife are teachers. I'm like, I'm not a teacher. Now, mind you, I'm a golf instructor, right, professional golfer, but I'm not a teacher. And then, what do you mean you're not a teacher? I'm like, look, people want to come see me. Like, people, it's fun to come see a golf instructor. I want to get better, yada, yada, yada. People will do what Wally does. Half those kids don't want to be there. Actually, and that's generous, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it might be, especially my subject. You got to have 1 year to graduate, and it might just be seat time. I'm just here to get my credits and get out.
yeah, that's true. So the topic for today is motivation. So how to motivate students. So my dad was a big Zig Ziglar guy, so I love this quote. People say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing, but we recommend you do it daily. I love that.
Yeah.
So,
They recommend it daily?
yeah, I know.
No.
That's why I have you sit on the other end. I always have the buffer between you and Richard. So if you know, I'm going to tell a story because of how I met your family, which was really, really cool. I have 4 kids, as many of you know, and I just got done coaching my oldest in baseball. And I was with Rutgers, and we were driving to South Carolina in a bus, and the bus broke down. So I'm on the side of the road in God knows where, somewhere in South Carolina, and my phone rings, and it's Lee Federline, the former president of Cherry Hill American, which I ended up being a whole other story. But Lee's on the phone, he's like, Bob, I got great news for you, because you're the new coach of our 6th AA team here at Cherry Hill American. And I'm like, that's great, but I didn't apply for the job. Like, I didn't. That's not something I was on my radar to do. He's like, don't worry. He goes, we already picked your team.
Special guest alert.
Special guest walking down during the show. DMG just walked in the house. Let's go. So DMG's like, what is that? What was that TV
DMG,
show?
You Know Me?
Oh, you're down with yeah. What was that TV show? Was it Tool Time? The guy was on the other side of the fence.
Yeah. To the Toolman Taylor.
So that's what DMG is today. So, welcome DMG.
Welcome, hello. Thank
Hello.
you guys. How are you?
So I'm now coaching the new AAA baseball team at Cherry Hill American, or AA it was. What's AA? So, anyway, Lee's like, I picked your team for you. Your team color is yellow. And I'm like, you picked my team and we're yellow? I'm like, so I show up for the first day of practice, and let me just tell you what. It was a train wreck. And this team was like, it was probably the 15 kids that signed up last, and I put my son in there, and it was like, okay. And I literally, other than my son and Noah Greenspun, were the only 2 kids that could reach the plate from the pitcher's mound. It was like, oh my, this is going to be a long, long year. So about 10 minutes into practice, a car pulls up, right? 10 minutes late, it's perfect timing for us. Walks out, and out gets out Abe and Alec, A-Rod. And we walk up, and this team is going to be just a disaster. And I walk up, and I'm like, okay, because the first time I ever met Alec. I'm like, he's like, oh, my name's Alec Rodriguez. I'm like, A-Rod. I'm like, that's great. And they said, well, we're Yankee fans. I'm like, I love you people. This is fantastic. So I hand Alec a baseball, and I say, okay, Alec, I'm like, this is a pitching mound, and this is 46 feet. I'm like, okay, can you throw the ball over the plate? And he tilts his head like a puppy. He's like, from the windup or the stretch? And I'm like, okay, first pitch, right down the middle. I took all our uniforms. We did Bad News Bears stuff with them, and I said, you know what? That was Kelly Leak that season. Okay, Alec, if the ball's anywhere near you, catch it. We actually made it to the finals that year too. So I guess my question now for Wally would be, like, a kid was like, clearly he was more motivated than 99% of every kid I had out there. Like, how does a kid get to that age and is just that motivated to be great? I mean, was there anything you guys did, or was he just born that way?
I think when I speak in generalities, and at this point, Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Okay.
When we talk about motivation, how
yeah.
can I motivate a kid who's hungry, who doesn't have shelter? And then the other thing is the 5 love languages. How do you feel loved? So my son's an only child, as you know.
I do.
And that was our family thing. That is what we did. And so baseball.
Okay.
Everything was baseball.
By the way, it was just opening day New York Yankees. Let's go. Ollie and I both.
Yay, go Yankees. Soto. Okay. So I think that with Alec, and when he's your guest,
Yes.
he can tell you if I'm right or wrong. I think that's how he felt loved.
Yeah.
We tend to, and I think as human beings, we do seek approval of other people. And it
For
was
sure.
just like, that was he and his dad, that was their thing. It was
truly
baseball,
was,
baseball,
yes,
baseball. I mean, there was no team practice. Abe and Alec were on that ball field. People would call us like, it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. We were walking past, the complex, and Abe and Alec were out there, you know, and he
wanted to be out there.
And he wanted to be out there because that was the time that he spent with Dad, and that's how he felt loved. Like one of his primary love languages, quality time. So it's like, okay, I get to spend time with Dad. So this is going to be our thing. Actually, I remember when Alec was born. Nurses make small talk and they're like, look at those legs, they're soccer legs. And his father looked at the nurse, soccer. It's baseball.
Yeah. You're from the Dominican.
We're from the Dominican. What are you talking about?
Baseball.
Like, you're talking about soccer. And baseball became such a thing with Alec. And I have a friend, Susan Levy, who was my neighbor, and she's my colleague also. He would go, our backyards were, adjacent to each other, and he would go outside and say, Miss Susan, and he would point to the stars in the sky, and he would say, there's first base, there's second base, there's third base. That was the baseball constellation for him.
Right.
And my best story is that this was when, there was an age, he started, this whole baseball thing very, very, very young.
Very young.
And, they get to age 3 and 4, and they get to be a little challenging, their behavior. So my son my son has no artistic talent whatsoever. Sorry. He may have athletic talent, but artistic, no. So when, he would get on my nerves and he did something he wasn't supposed to, I said, okay, arts and crafts it is. So I gave him all the arts and crafts supplies. And
So it was a punishment?
That was a punishment. Now this kid, like, he's something else, his personality. So he's like, I'll show you. So you know what he did? And I had to have this thing framed. He drew Yankee Stadium. Like, I have it framed. It's in the house on the wall, and with glitter for the lights and everything else. He goes, "Here's my arts and crafts."
I'm tearing up. Beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah, because I always wonder. Like, I've coached a lot of. I had Jalen Brunson on my basketball team at one point when I was coaching Colton, and then I have A-Rod. No, A-Rod, her son, he was showcased on ESPN a couple times last year. And God willing, so he'll probably be drafted in the MLB this year. And I God willing, let's hope. He's having a great year. Yeah. So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Glass of bourbon, ha ha. bourbon heart. My bourbon heart. Alcohol. Because no great story ever started with, I'll have a salad.